So Korach was, um, uh, so Rashi actually answers the question: where did Korach get this bad idea from? And, well, he saw that he was going to be the ancestor of prophets, Shmuel Hanavi, Prophet Samuel, many illustrious Levium. He said, "Oh, obviously, I'm going to succeed." Now, we have to recognize two things. First of all, so that means that there was a thought process behind Korach, and what he felt was good evidence, and he was right. We also have to recognize that we know what Ruach HaKodesh is. I'll give you a hint. If you read the Mesilas Yesharim, right, and you start at page 1, and you go all the way to the end of the book, so you get to the highest level, which is Kedusha, which he says is beyond human capabilities. It's when a person has done everything they can to connect with Hashem in every possible moment, in every possible way, and to the point that they, Hashem then gives them the superhuman ability to be connected with Him at all times, that even when they have to go down from their pedestal to do stuff like eat, the eating becomes like an act of service to Hashem, like bringing a korban in the base Hamikdash, rather than having to descend from their spiritual level in order to eat and then climb back onto the pedestal. They stay on the pedestal and they pull the food up towards them and they elevate the whole world. That's Kedusha. And Kedusha leads to Ruach HaKodesh. Korach apparently had Ruach HaKodesh. That's how he saw the future, right? You can't see the future if you don't have Ruach HaKodesh. So Korach was on that level. That's where he made his mistake. Korach was one of the people also, by the way, who carried the Aron, the highest possible, most sacred job that a Ben Levi could have. It says many people would die because they would compete for the job and they would fight. And Korach didn't die. He had the job. He was entitled to it and he kept it. Right. Now, if he was at some point very corrupted, I would think the first thing to go, right, when a person, God forbid, has an illness, so the certain systems shut down and essentially, I think the first thing to go would be the Ruach HaKodesh, right? If Korach became this corrupt, the first thing he would do was lose his ability to. Maybe he did, but apparently until pretty late in the game, when he was already formulating his plans, and he still had Ruach HaKodesh at that point, he still had the ability to see the future and to recognize. Why was he wrong? I mean, just logically speaking, yeah.
I was going to say, because he didn't take the logical step, which is, I have children.
Right. Why didn't he take that logical step? More than that. And the Rosh said this. I think the author more than that. What happened to his children?
Well, at first they went along with it.
Until, when did they do tshuva?
They did tshuva on the way down.
Right. And where do they do tshuva? In the pit, right? So they were falling into the hole, and they did tshuva before they hit the bottom. So Hashem created a ledge, and they were able to climb out of the pit. There's a pasuk in Tehillim, Rachash libi davarta, my heart whispered a good thing. So in the hearts of Korach's children, something whispered, and Hashem heard it. So the author Salomika says they were so far gone they couldn't even speak at that point. The only thing they could do was in their heart had a feeling like something. So now you know why Korach didn't think of it, because he was almost right. They almost didn't do teshuva. The type of teshuva they did, you might have thought that maybe they couldn't even do teshuva at that point, or if they did, Hashem even accepted it at that point. But they did it, and Hashem accepted it, and that was what Korach didn't see. It was beyond his capability to envision that happening.
So what did he assume?
Well, so one of two things: either that they would never change their minds, that they were so in it with him. I think that's what the Rosh said. They were so committed to his way of thinking and so much like him. He said, I've sort of fully embraced this, and I'm not turning around. Neither will they. So Korach's logic was, we're either all right or we're all wrong. We're either going down together or we're going to survive. And since clearly someone's going to survive, it didn't occur to him that his sons were making a about face. And he says, I'm not changing my mind. If I change my mind, then they can change their minds too. But as long as I'm with it, they're following me all the way. Hook, line, and sinker. So that was what Korach didn't see. Interestingly, right, so the Rosh said, what was it?
told us, you told me Rabbi Edelman is saying that Korach himself did tshuva, was rehabilitated the right way.
Yeah, I heard that from Rabbi Edelman, from based on a medrash. Trying to remember. Yeah, here he says, Korach looked at his children and he saw they were participating in the fight against Moshe Rabbeinu with their whole heart and soul. And it didn't occur to him that at one moment they can have a complete about face and do teshuvah. That although he was unique in his generation with his extreme wisdom, he still didn't recognize that possibility because he didn't have a full understanding of the extent of the Jewish soul, the principle he is, that no matter how far gone he is, he can always come back and in one moment become from a Rasha into a tzaddik. That's something we have to remember. Because Korach was smarter than us. He didn't realize how far possibilities were, so we certainly don't realize. Right.
We do a little bit now that we've read this. Right?
Now that we read it, right. Okay. Right. It's also important to remember that if you look at what Korach says, and you don't need any mafarshim for this, all you have to do is read the Chumash, right? How does the story start? So Korach and his men come to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say, all of us people are holy, and Hashem is among them. Why do you elevate yourselves over the people of Hashem? Right? That does sound like, if Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader and Aaron is the Kohen Gadol, and then another big Talmud Chacham who was Ruach HaKodesh comes to Moshe and says, Moshe, why do you feel that you're greater than everyone else? Isn't all Jews holy? Don't they all have the right to connect with Hashem? Who would you think is right? Just listen to the two sides. I mean, someone said that I guess I can't. It doesn't represent the particular Masorah that I was trained in, but that doesn't mean it's not authentic. But I did hear it, so I'll tell it to you. I heard it on tape. Rabbi Official Schechter said this. Is quoted a Hasidic Rebbe. I forgot which one. I forgot who and when it was, but it says, we believe, and this is definitely is in the Torah. We believe in Gilgulim, that reincarnation. It's in the Kabbalah, so I don't know anything about it, but it exists. So apparently, this Hasidic Rebbe said that he was able to remember some of his previous incarnations, and he remembered being in the desert. So they asked him, whose side were you on, Korach or Moshe Rabbeinu? He said no one knew what to do. It was really confusing. And you can imagine, why wouldn't it be confusing? Because we know the end of the story. Like Korach had 250 heads of Sanhedrin. Do you know have you ever seen 250 heads of Sanhedrin? Have you ever seen one? Imagine 250 Rav Yasha, Rav Chaim Kanievsky's, Rav Moshe Feinstein's, all following someone who looks at the Chafetz HaKodesh and can see the future. And they all go to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, aren't all Jews holy? Shouldn't all Jews have a right to connect with Hashem? What would you do?
But I would say they had a point.
You say they had a point, right?
I was probably in the wrong direction.
So, what's interesting, if you look at the Mesilas Yesharim, so he talks about kavod, right? So there's something called Nikias, right? What is Nikias? Nikias is cleanliness. Cleanliness from what? So it's really cleanliness from rationalization, from self-deception, because if you look at the Mesilas Yesharim, it starts with Zehirus, that's avoiding sin, basic, right? Zehirus, pursuing mitzvahs, also basic. Because both of those things require tremendous effort because we see that we don't always avoid sins, we don't always do mitzvahs, and that's because of the Yetzer Hara. In the flow of life, he talks about the flow of life and the blind man walking by the river, he'll fall in, and the horse plunging through battle. All these metaphors. Paro, keeping people so busy they had no time to think. People in the maze, they don't know how the way out. We go through life that way. We're naturally conditioned as human beings. So we kind of know it's right, we sort of know it's right, but we don't really know, and we fall into the pit a lot. We trip over a lot of things that are in our way because we're not. It takes a lot of effort to really live life. It's a constant effort. Because the Yetzer Hara is always putting an effort against us. So by definition, if we're not, imagine like driving, you know the way to go, but like you have another driver whose job is to get in your way, and you're on some kind of mission, and the enemy is sending people who they put up roadblocks. They come in the wrong way. The whole job is like there's a fleet of the KGB is out there, like trying to make sure you don't get to where you need to go. You're trying to deliver a pair of religious articles to some secret Jew that you're an American tourist, so they can't do anything obvious. But their job is to like hinder you at every step. So you got to really keep your eyes open, or else they're going to find plenty of ways to make sure you don't get to your destination. That's what the Yitzhahara does. Once you get to that past that point, you get to Nikias. Nikias is if you've gotten to the point where you are mindful and you can notice all the things that are getting in your way, but you still might not notice things that are really more subtle. And every mitzvah has its fine points and areas where we rationalize, where we don't see, we don't notice. We kind of get it right, we don't get it perfectly right. And you go through a whole, this is the chapter 11, the famous long chapter 11. He's not bothering anybody. He's not bothering anybody. Okay. Nobody notices. This chapter where he goes through like a whole bunch of issues, and he says this is where you need a targeted approach because general awareness, general mindfulness is one thing, and that helps you get to a certain level. But at this point where you're trying to find those little pockets, you need to really look through each issue, look at the fine points, look at the details, and figure out. So he starts with money. I think that's the first one. He has a lot of people have trouble with that. Pure honesty in business, always being, And then he goes to a lot of details of that. And then he goes to other things, Shabbos, Kashrus, Kiddush Hashem, all kinds of different things. Then he gets into midos, not being arrogant, and not having a temper, and finally, the very last, all the issues that he goes through in this chapter 11. And he says there are as many issues as there are mitzvahs, basically, but he's just talking about the main ones. The last issue he talks about is desire. He doesn't mean desire like an animal, it wants to roll in the grass and eat hay. That's just, that's human. That's not that's just part of our body. We have bodies. Our bodies need food. We shouldn't overindulge. But he's talking about desire, like the human kind of desire, where we're always striving, we're ambitious, we want things, we want money, we want power. Basically, it's two things. He says money is the first one, and the whole idea everyone wants 100, they want 200, they have 200, they want 400, and he talks about that. And finally, he said, but even more than that is the desire for honor. That's how he ends the chapter. This is the last issue he's talking about, the desire for honor. And he says, the desire for, just get this, so I think we have one here. I think we have one in the shul, right? In the shul, but it's okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. So he says,
all of them. That's your backup. Safety net.
The money is the desire for honor, because a person can typically overcome the Yitzhahara for money and other pleasures, but kavod still drives the person. Already saying himself less than the next person. Many people have and been first the kingdom after Shalom. He lost his own buckles of honor because Gemara grabbed him by his garment and said, "I, Isha, and spend together in Gan Eden." So then Yish was first. He said, "So then I'm not interested." And that's next example. What caused Korach for people to be destroyed? It was code, honor. As it says in the pasuk, "Bikashtem gam kahuna." You're also looking for kahuna. That itself, I think, should give us a pause. I mean, like it says in the pasuk, as opposed to what some other interpretation. What else? I think what he's trying to say, it's not super obvious. I mean, Korach comes and says, "Everyone's holy. Why are you elevating yourselves?" Okay, well, what does he want? Okay, but my point is, Hashem is quoting Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe says to Korach, without Hashem being a Levi, you have the privilege of serving Hashem as a Levi does, and you also want the Kahuna. Yeah, bring it for Korach. Why? For Korach, and issue. Most said, no, you want after the kahuna, but we need to identify that because it's not obvious. Not only that, he says that well, he said something else happened. It was triggered by the fact that the leader of his family, the three like mini tribes, the three sons of Gershon, Koss, and Merari, the oldest family was the house of Koss, and their cousins. Of all the Jews, a young cousin, Korach, and that really got Korach going. He wanted to be the leader instead, so he went after the kahuna. Here's the question. You realize that. Whether Shiva says it was, but Korach believed that he should be the leader, right? He believed that it shouldn't be the cousin, it should be me. Like he quotes Rashi says it. My father had four brothers, one of four brothers. Aaron was the eldest, so his two sons got good positions. Moshe is the leader, Aaron's the Kohen. Moshe is the leader of the tribe. It should be me. I'm a son of the second brother. I'm the second family of first cousins. He goes to the youngest. Uziel was the youngest of the four brothers, and his son Elitzaphan became the leader. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go and oppose Moshe Rabbeinu. Korach, though, apparently believed he should be the leader, and he wasn't a stupid person. That means that he was probably a good candidate for being the leader, even though he wasn't chosen. Not talking about a person that thinks, "Oh, I should be the CEO," but he can't. He doesn't even know how to sign his name. Korach was qualified. He thought he was qualified. That after Moshe Rabbeinu, I should be the next person in line for the job. And why is that person Rosh Yeshiva? I should be Rosh Yeshiva. So sometimes that's a joke. Credible. It was credible. It was on a very high level. And again, so it's the same idea that Korach, because of his subconscious desire, didn't recognize that he was wrong, and he really thought he was right. And he thought that when they all go and bring the Ketoras, they've come with their incense, Hashem will choose him. That's what he believes. But so here's the thing. So the Mesilas Yesharim is going to talk about kavod, about honor, right? So Korach wants an honor. He wants the kahuna, right? Moshe Rabbeinu says he wants the kahuna. Now maybe it was really something else. He wanted to be the leader. Okay. So he goes on to say, look, the spies also had that was really what's going on underneath. Shaul HaMelech and David HaMelech, different stories. So kavod drives a person's heart more than all other desires in the world. If not for kavod, a person would wear whatever and eat whatever and live wherever. No one would need to make any money because your basic needs can be easily met. But everyone wants to keep up with the Joneses: a bigger house, nicer clothing, fancier food. That's why the rabbis tell us that jealousy and desire and honor take a person out of the world. How many people were willing to starve themselves rather than take a job that they don't feel is befitting for them? How foolish that is! How counterproductive! Their imaginary dignity, and because of that, they do nothing and they corrupt themselves. And okay, he says that kavod is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a person. He cannot serve his Creator properly because, at the very least, he'll end up diminishing Hashem's honor because he's so concerned about his own honor. And anything, it's a real kavod is Torah, only Torah. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, "Ein kavod ela Torah." And anything other than that is false, nonsense, imaginary, and he ought to divest himself from it completely. That's just one question. Korach wanted the kahuna. Is kahuna false, nonsensical, empty, meaningless, counterproductive, and foolish to pursue? Probably not, right? So how can you say that Korach was after the kahuna and then give a whole speech about how meaningless and foolish it is to pursue honor? I agree. I think Korach was dead wrong. Korach was dead wrong, and his approach was, but there's something wrong with Korach's approach. But how is it correct to say that the desire for honor, Korach wanted something else? And when human beings want, they want, a bigger plaque or a better title. So how those things are foolish. But don't tell me that wanting to be a Kohen is meaningless. Maybe Korach was
I'm born a woman, do I want to do the same thing?
exactly right. Should I wish I would have lived in the generation of Rabbi Akiva and I could be a bigger Kohen. So does that make me a bad person?
But the title is conferred by Hashem.
Okay, so let's say he maybe call him an unbeliever. I don't know. Call same things. How can you accuse him of pursuing?
He really understood what it was and he would appreciate what he was. He went about it in such an arrogant way and approaching the.
Well, so I think basically I agree with you. I mean, I don't. Maybe we have to discuss it further. What we're being told is, you can't tell me that being a Kohen is not something desirable. I mean, it was a gift. It was given to Aaron because he was such a tzaddik. How can somebody not want? Imagine if somebody offered you the kahuna. Do you want it? The right answer to that question.
I don't think I was wrong. My personally, how we not want that responsibility.
Okay, I there was at least Jensen who agreed with you. You know who that was? Esav.
Oh, I was thinking of that.
Yaakov said, "Will you sell me your birthright?" So Esav said, "What does it entail?" He said, "Lots of responsibilities." Esav says, "I'm going to die from this. Do I need it? You can have it. I'll take the bean. I'll take the bean." If Hashem said to Pinchas, "I was going to make you a Kohen, but because you didn't take the opportunity, you won't be a Kohen," how should he feel? Relieved, or maybe not? He should be disappointed, right? If you lost an opportunity. So why should Korach feel disappointed? I wanted to be a Kohen, and I don't get to be one.
Because he was never in the running.
So Korach is wrong because Hashem gives out the positions. You have to be happy with what Hashem gives you. So there's a big difference between there's an opportunity, you should strive for it. If Hashem said we're accepting applications for the kahuna, I think everyone should have run to apply. But if Hashem says we're not, then it's not your job. What does that have to do with and nonsense humanity? So the answer is that if a person who loves Hashem and wants to do what Hashem wants him to do will seize every opportunity to serve Hashem, will look for opportunities, maybe even fight for opportunities, like carrying the Aron, which they used to fight for, which Korach got. And that's appropriate. But when a person has the opportunity, then they don't feel desire. If Korach knew clearly that it was not available and he wanted it anyways, Hashem is totally incorrect. That's nonsense, foolishness, all the things that we say about kavod. And there's the same spiritual opportunity when it's pursued for the right reasons. Then it's an act of love for Hashem, and you should. But when it's pursued, maybe pursuing something which is valuable innately, but the fact that you're pursuing it in this context, what you're really pursuing is something empty and meaningless. Not the kahuna is empty and meaningless. That what you're after is something that is it's an illusion, and it's really one of the worst and most damaging things that a person can strive for. Right? It's a very subtle.
Moshe, when Hashem told him, "You're going to be the leader," and he said, "No, my brother."
Right.
He older than me, shouldn't he be? No,
Right.
brother was
Right. We're supposed to. There's mixed feelings that we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be grateful for certain spiritual opportunities, even if we're supposed to run away from them. There's both. It's a contradiction. There are certain that can. It says that there's a medrash about that also. Yeah, it says that it was money. That was part of it. He became very, very wealthy. That's a separate discussion, but it says that. Yeah, that's a different shmooze.
So he was a complicated
Human
person.
mind.
Yeah. Okay.